Good evening, Bookish Brigade. Tonight on Books and Bounty, we have Chelsea Blackwell, illustrator and comic artist, better known as Astronym, and Charity Reid join us to chat about their STEM graphic novel, Mr. Smarty Pants, All Nuts. In the second half of the show, I give a brief review of the book, and we'll continue our discussion on Laura Perez's Occultus. Plus, we'll take a look at some upcoming events and where you can catch Books and Bounty TV live. But first, a few words for our sponsors. We have BeMoreNews.com, home of the Emmy nominated Donnie Glover Show, which you can now catch on Channel 2, streaming live. This week, Donnie will be hosting the Black Wall Street Soiree. This is the culminating event in the Joe Mann's Black Wall Street Award Series, which goes to raise money for the series that impacts and recognizes emerging Black entrepreneurs and those who support them. You can still get tickets today, so check out BeMoreNews.com, or you can search for the Black Wall Street Soiree on Eventbrite. Also like to give a special shout out to Dr. L.J. Speaks of JNF Enterprises, also known as the Impact Builder. You can check out Dr. L.J. Speaks, also known as Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., for your publishing and distribution needs. Stay tuned for some upcoming Books and Bounty events, partnered along with JNF Enterprises and others. So, all right. Without much further ado, I want to give some proper introductions here. So I'm going to be reading from my paper so I get everything right, ladies. Um, right now, you all know her as Astronym, Chelsea Blackwell, who finds her inspiration from anime and film. Astronym's work is easily recognizable for bright, bold color, dramatic expression, and what I personally believe is a fantastic masterclass in black hair and tunes. Um, if you look at her growing portfolio, you'll see that she aligns her work with others and organizations that are mission driven and passionate about Black characters, including our second guest tonight, Charity Reid. Charity is an educator and writer of two children's books. With Astronym as the artist, Charity created a STEM graphic novel called Mr. Smarty Pants, All Nuts, and recently The Tale of Aspire, illustrated by S.M. Smith. So, Chelsea, Charity, welcome. Thank you so much for joining Books and Bounty tonight. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
And Charity,
Same. So glad to be here. So great to meet you.
so how was your holiday? I hope you had some times with friends and family.
It was busy, 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 busy. Oh my gosh.
Because Chelsea, you're
Jumping.
you're you're not home right now. Like you're originally from Texas, but
Yes.
were you able to go home for the holidays?
No, I actually stayed up here and house hopped and ate plates and saw people, family and found family. We actually had a Friendsgiving uh, to that was all found family, all friends, all good vibes and everything. And then on Thanksgiving Day, then I went to go see my partner's family. um, yeah, it was good. I mean, it is hard, a bit hard for me around the holidays because I'm not home, and uh, it's a change. It's a big change, but it's kind of what I signed up for when I decided to adventure past the borders of Texas.
We'll talk more about your route to over here in the Mid Atlantic shortly.
For sure.
Uh, but Charity, how was your Thanksgiving? Did you enjoy your holiday?
I did. Mine was great. It was not as hectic as hers was. I did not know you were in Texas. I'm in Texas, so that's my stomping grounds. But
Yeah.
yeah, great time with friends and family, and ate good and napped good, all the good stuff.
Yeah, it was a small, nice holiday with the family in the house. I had a nephew and a few folks, stop over, pop through in and out. But it was nice and quiet. And the same game I play every year. I'm not cooking. We're going out to dinner. I'm not cooking this year. And it's my fellow's favorite holiday. His birthday is the 15th. And then Thanksgiving
Oh
is right
wow.
after that. So he's like, No, what do you mean? We have some. I always end up cooking. But again, thanks for joining us tonight. So, Chelsea, my first question for you is Astronym or Chelsea? What do you like to go by, especially in these kinds of settings? Because I find myself when I refer to like your life or talking about your life and that kind of thing, I say Chelsea. But when I refer to your work, I directly refer call you Astronym. So, what would you like to go by tonight?
So I don't mind Chelsea, but honestly, at this point, I'm just Astro. Like my friends call me Astro.
I love it.
Chelsea is like one of those. It's like foreign. Like you know how when you think you're in trouble, like your mom call you by your full government. That's what Chelsea feels a bit like now at this juncture. So Astro works.
Great. So Astro work, we'll keep it there. And I'm going to start before I take a deep dive in looking at Chelsea's work and how she's gotten here. I'm going to ask both of you the same question. And Astro, you can start first, and then we'll head over to you, Charity. But the question is, what inspired your passion for storytelling? Astro, I know you tell stories through visual arts. Charity, you focus your writing, a lot of your writing and what's new to the game, but it's in children's writing and your background in education. So first, Astro, what brought to you? How did you understand that you had a passion not just for art but for storytelling as well?
Okay, so I love answering this question because it gives me a chance to give everybody my goofy lore. Um, so when I was a kid in kindergarten, I remember I had drawn the ugliest house of all time with crayons, but and this was back, I'm from Houston. I
Hmm.
went to a daycare called Jenny's Learning Tree. It's a black owned daycare, and I'm not sure if it's still around, but I like to mention it because it is a big part of my history. Um, I had a teacher named Mrs. Samuels who was, in charge of class, very encouraging, great teacher. I love teachers. I have been a teacher. It's also a part of my passion.
Okay.
Um, and I drew this ugly house with crayons, and she treated it like it was Picasso, like it was a masterpiece. And she hung it up on the wall. Now, I was a teenager at this point. My sister, younger siblings are going to this daycare now. I don't go there, but I went in to go pick up my siblings. I'm like 15 at this
Mm.
point or something. And they still had that drawing hanging up. And it was like so touching to see that. Mind you, since that moment, I never stopped drawing. I just kept going. I, it just became my thing from that point on. Mrs. Samuel just praised me into my career. Um, and From there, I turned to visual storytelling as I learned about things like manga. When I was in middle school, me and my friends were really into comics and things like that. And we decided to do things like a pass around comic where like somebody would draw a panel, then somebody would continue the story with the next panel, and
Oh,
we would just have like little chapter books of drawings that we would share. And sometimes it would be letters to each other, sometimes it would be me teaching my friends something. And from there, uh, I jumped into the world of education. I've had a crazy career experience. I was a zoo greeter. I taught people, which is also a part of storytelling. I taught people about zoo animals. That turned into being an educator for an aquarium where I taught people about aquarium fish. But then I started helping people train tigers. So I started teaching people about tigers.
oh wow.
From there, I became an art teacher. I've been an IT IT manager for a school. I've taught everything from biology to just soccer. And don't ask me nothing about soccer. I don't know nothing about soccer, but I taught soccer. So it just kind of like felt like the natural thing to do was to create comics, especially because my life is colorful and it's colorful on purpose. So telling people about the things and the experiences that I have in my life are just ways for me to communicate how colorful my life is, as well as my passion for teaching people things. I don't believe, education should be behind a paywall. So whatever experiences I have, I'm always grateful to share, even if it's through a visual narrative of some goofy comic about how, I might have gotten into it with somebody trying to quiz me on anime, how to handle that situation. You quiz them back because you know more than they do. Usually, you know more than they do. So, hopefully, that was,
No, that I
descriptive.
think, and I think that's a great segue in to Charity, to you, to answer the same question. What sparked your passion for storytelling? You're an educator yourself. You're also a
Yes.
mom. Now with two children's books under your belt and published, what brought you to the point of realizing, I want to be able to tell stories? And we'll specifically talk,
Um,
and it specifically, we'll get into that. I want to hear about how we chose to the format of the graphic novel, but we'll get to that in a moment. First, what
okay.
sparked your passion for storytelling?
Well, I've always had a wild imagination since I was younger. And not quite as adventurous as Astro over there, but my mind has always been, well, now that I know later in life, adult ADHD, right? It makes sense. But when I was a kid, I loved to let out my creative avenues, whether it was with my easy bake oven or sketching or drawing stuff or writing stories. And I really liked poetry when I was younger. And so I would write a lot of that. And then of course, I got older and pursued education. And when I got into the classroom, we would take our students. I've taught first through fifth grade, but my first graders, when we would take them to the library, like that was the best. Everybody loved library day. And I loved it too. I'm like, man, I'm in the wrong. I should have been a librarian because they get all excited to sit there and listen to the stories. And it was really great. I'm like, man, I love this. So I thought about when I used to write all the time and said, you know what, let me revisit this and see if it's still something that sparks creativity in me, something that excites me. And that was The Tale of Aspire. I wrote that one because a lot of my babies, my first and second graders, will always be like, I can't, oh, I can't. I'm like, yes, you can. Come on now, let's switch our mindset.
Yes,
So
keep that
in
perseverance.
that
That's the key.
vein, it became a, hey, yes, you can. Let's look at what we're good at, what we can accomplish. Let's try, right? Let's just try. Green eggs and ham, Dr. Seuss, let's try. So fast forward to that, my first son, he's 10 now, but he was young then, barely born when I did Tale of Aspire before it got to publishing phase. But after that, my perspective was different because my first book is animal based, which there's nothing wrong with animals and, telling stories with different characters like that. But for my sons, both of them being young Black boys, I noticed a discrepancy in representation of books that were entertaining for them, stories that were entertaining for them. Because you see a lot more girls, but not as many for boys, and still not enough either way for across the board. But things
I
that didn't highlight, the struggle. Like it's, of course, there's the struggle, which is a place for all those types of stories, but it was more so those fun, witty and curious kids that my son could see himself in. I didn't see enough of that out there. And so that shifted my perspective to go, yeah, no, we need more of these. We need some more stories. So that's where it came from.
and Charity, I would agree. I love this story because one of the little ones in our house, Bubba is 7 and he has a peanut allergy. And I didn't know, like when I first got the book and I first started reading it, I didn't know it was going to be so focused on that. I was like, what? This is so awesome. I can't wait. I haven't read it to him yet, but I can't wait to read it if his mom is watching. Like, we're going to read this weekend. And so I'm really excited to learn about this because, again, it's about overcoming that and not just coping with it, but finding how it inspired, like if he wouldn't be himself if he didn't have the spark or inspiration or need even to help himself, around his peanut allergy, then he would not have his same sort of mission and innovation may be, might not be as sharp and bright.
Right.
We'll get more into to the art and the story of Benjamin and Mr. Smarty Pants in a minute. But Astro, I wanted to ask you a question. You've noted how colorful, and we all have careers that have bobbed and weaved and taken different directions. When did you start to realize that your art could actually turn into a profession?
Um, I realized that I don't think it's something that I just realized. I think it's just something that I powered myself
Okay.
determined to be a famous artist.
Let's see. I think Astro, you may be breaking up there a bit. Oh no. Okay, we have you back now. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go ahead and repeat. I just kind of plowed my way into being the famous artist that childhood me dreamed of being. Um,
Mhm.
it was more so not. It was not so much for, uh, I guess, the career aspect of it as much as it was for self fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
which happened to be a career thing.
Find your passion
Um,
first.
yeah, yeah, and I actually I'd actually say I stepped into that as a teenager. When I was around 15, I started taking art commissions on DeviantArt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I actually started making adoptables on DeviantArt as well. And once I started seeing, cha-chings in my PayPal, I was like, oh, I can really make some money. I can be independent with this. So since then, I just started building, and this is before I had some edgy online screen name before Astronym, but I actually uh, coined the name Astronym at around 17, like really, really early. Um, and from then on, it's just been building not just my brand, but my content, what I actually like to create, and just trying things and seeing what sticks. And what has always stuck was comics, not just for the online spaces, but in real life as well. Like I would make little comics about my friends, and share them with them, and they'd have a good laugh about it. I would make comics about little OCs that I made when I was younger, and people liked them. And I have a knack for comedy, apparently. So I'd say, it was around the time I started taking commissions, just offhanded to make some pocket change.
It's just, I wanted to go back to the story you mentioned earlier about your friends when you were younger. You would create comic strips that were, what were they
Mhm.
called again? When you followed after each other,
I say I call them pass around
pass around
comics, but
comics.
like I don't have a term for it. I know there probably is one, but I don't know what
I
it
think
would be.
that's descriptive enough. So I remember I had my friend Jessica. We created, and I don't know why I didn't think about this earlier, but we created we created magazines. Like I've always been behind the scenes. So we created, this was fifth grade. We created out of the three prong folders. We would create little articles or get artwork from submissions from kids and things and get our parents to copy of them. And we gave them out. We started selling them for like 25 cents. We got in trouble for doing that. But I think to your point about you understanding and at a young age that your artwork was worth value. I want to revisit this later, and understanding your agency and power in that, and putting worth to your art. I think that's something that many young artists and creators in general don't realize until they're much older. So kudos
Mhm.
to you for understanding the value and worth of your art, young Astro. I really am impressed with that. And
Thank you for that.
speaking of influence, you've noted before that anime is a big influence for you. I'm currently learning about graphic novels. This series that
Hmm.
I'm doing is for Books and Bounty, is one to challenge me to read more, but also to try out new structures and extend the definition of what reading can be. And I am so glad I made the decision to go with graphic novels. I've been learning a lot and comparing them to traditional literature versus comic books. But one thing that I can't quite pinpoint, and I'm hoping you can help me and the viewers today, and that those are the difference between manga and graphic novels. I hope I'm saying that right, or my teenager will kill me and be entirely embarrassed if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
No,
Uh,
it's okay. It's
but
okay.
for me, and again, I hope this is a fair interpretation, but it's like what American cartoons are to anime, graphic novels, comic books are to manga. But I know it's more nuanced than that. So could you give us a little mini lesson here?
Honestly, I'd say graphic novels and manga are kind of, I'd say about one to one comparison. You know, just like anime is cartoons, anime is Japanese cartoons, American cartoons are American cartoons, but there's also American anime. So, well, nowadays since it's super
Nowadays, yeah.
popular and everybody's hopped on the anime train, um, I would say the way that manga differs from graphic novels is story structure. Um, and that is because there is a specific way that the Japanese do their comic book setups, and there is a name for it. But forgive me because I can't think of it just yet. But I know they separate things into we have the four acts, hero's journey, things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
while there are parallels there for things like shonen manga, there's a certain type of way that they frame things. A good resource for that would be Hirohiko Araki's book on creating manga. He is the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and he goes into detail about his experience with not just making manga, but like how he failed a lot before he got to where he was. JoJo's has a huge cult following
Oh, I know.
now. He is a massive success. Manga wise. So that's one really good mangaka to read up on and follow as far as how manga is structured. Um, Specifically for shonen, but it can branch off into the other genres as well.
You mentioned the creator of JoJo's Great Adventure, that cult following, that had the extreme success of not only that manga but the animated series to go along with it. That he
Yes.
mentions the failures that he's had. One of
Hmm.
the questions that I sent along to prompt the interview along today talked about asked you if there were any projects or things that you had not finished and what you could learn from that. And the reason I asked that question is because on my previous show, Tim Fielder, who is a well established graphic artist, illustrator, and Afrofuturist, noted that one of his biggest points of advice he was giving young emerging artists was to commit to the work and complete the work, right?
Hmm.
So, talk to me about a time where either you were disappointed by a project or we'll use failure in air quotes. And what did you learn about it? Learn from that experience?
um, Projects that didn't pan out how I wanted them to. Well, I would say that I could attribute that to a lot of the stuff that I don't post. I have a lot of things that I haven't shared, and that's because they feel like I am the only one looking at it. Um, I wouldn't say that anything that I've created has been a failure because I did it. I did it and I made it happen. So I don't really like to look at things from the perspective of this was an absolute waste. Um, but I can tell you that when it comes to things that don't make it out the drafts,
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of the times me and most artists tend to be the ones holding ourselves back. We tend to be our biggest critic as well as the one to shoot ourselves in the foot because we don't let ideas we don't give ideas a chance to breathe. They don't get their light in the sun, and it's because we're being, and I'm talking to myself as well, I am being hypercritical and not allowing people to appreciate the ideas. I think it was Andy Warhol who made a quote that went something like, uh, create the art or create bad art and let everybody else decide if it's good or bad.
Hmm.
Um,
I
And
think those are
that,
words to live by.
right,
Just reference back to Tim Fielder. He was saying like you have to get the work out there. You have to
right.
show the work, commit the work, and build your brand. But also, I recently saw a clip on social media of Tyler, the creator, who was talking
Yes,
about like you have to put the work out there because you never know who's watching. Like
yes,
he was talking about how he'll just scroll through YouTube all day long looking at different musicians, and you just folks with 6 followers and 2 video views, and he's sitting there going through their entire catalog. So
yeah.
I think that's a big note for up and coming artists out there. Put it out there, see what sticks, see the kind of feedback you get. It's all a learning process. It's never a failure, and you have
And don't
to
let social.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, don't let social media be the only driving force for you putting your work out there. It do not matter how many likes it gets or how many people comment on it. Put it out there anyway. Um, I will say one thing I have learned in doing the right thing of putting out something that I don't like is getting opportunities like working on Mr. Smarty Pants. So
So I think that's a great segue into let's talk about Mr. Sparty Pants now because how one I want to know how you two found each other. Astro, you seem to one your stories and art and projects that you align yourself with not only focus on diverse, particularly Black characters, but you also seem to align yourself with organizations and folks like Charity who are passionate and mission driven. So how did you guys find each other? You wanted
That
to
was
answer
Miss
that, Charity?
Kelly from Soaring Kite. Our publisher actually melded us together. It's a funny story too, because when you, for those who are unaware, when you submit a story to a publisher and then they take it through the process of, the editing, the rewriting, then getting your illustrator, getting all the paneling done, and all that stuff. We were in that phase, and that's what takes the longest. So there was a previous individual, I don't remember their name, that was assigned to on us. That was an illustrator. And I got to see a little bit of the work and the samples. And then she got injured. And Miss Kelly was like, "It's all right. We've got a backup. Don't worry. We've got someone else. She's phenomenal. This, that, and the third." And I'm like, "Okay, let me go to social media." I'm like, "Oh wow, yeah, she is good." I'm excited. And so they're like, "We're gonna take what we have. We're gonna work with it, and we're gonna, she's gonna make it amazing." And I'm like, "All right." So they sent me the updated, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, yeah, this is gonna be great. I'm excited." So,
Yeah,
um,
sure.
in situations like that, the publisher typically pairs the two together, and I think it worked out how it was supposed to, because as you heard Astro mention her sense of humor, I believe her sense of humor with my text allowed expressions and things to really shine through. And I'm like, oh, I would have never thought, because I didn't tell her make the eyes look like this, and like she just showed exactly what I was imagining. So it was so cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. So
That's one thing I wanted to let folks know. Like the expressions on here are so for look at this scene. It's the family. Benjamin has recently broken out from eating peanut butter. And I'm trying to do a close up here. But look at his pitiful self.
yeah.
Look at his parents. Look at his mom. She's horrified. And
Yeah.
Astro, to take this question back to you, it seems as if maybe you already had a contract with Soaring Kite. But how do you decide on what projects are going to fit right for you? And how did you say yes to Charity?
So I will say charity was an easy yes. One, I love STEM, like love it. I told you guys I work with tigers and all kinds of animals. My If I didn't go to school for graphic design, I would have been a biology major because I was killing those courses. So STEM is big passion of mine, and we need more Black people in STEM. And I love the bridge of STEM and the arts because I feel like they're so intertwined, and it's so uh, underappreciated how intertwined art and STEM is. Um, so it was just an easy project because it just absolutely aligns with everything that I love. Um, so I choose my projects by things that I'm passionate about because it makes it easy for me to just dive in and dial into what I want to create with my artist voice through the writer's scripts. Um, Colors are a big part of what I do. They are what I'm most known for. Piggy is another project that I've worked on with Scholastic. And that one was actually my first graphic novel. I'm a colorist for that graphic novel. And my mentor uh, recruited me for that project. And the other thing that I'm passionate about is reading, getting kids to read. I feel like kids need to read more. People should read more.
Yes.
Um, any opportunity to really draw the reader's eyes into something that I really like, really passionate about, and share that, even if they don't know that's what I'm doing. It's just, it's yummy. It's delicious.
You know, that is a really good way to describe your art. It. I don't know, cute is not enough for it. Like it's yummy, it's delicious. It's like bold and bubbly and juicy. Like it is so fun. And you mentioned how you love using your art to get folks to read more. One of the things that I found out about graphic novels is that they are one of the more approachable and accessible
Mhm.
gateways into reading for many for the broadest group of audience, right? The broadest audience. Um, when it comes to like the physical terms of accessibility, when it means that no matter, not no matter, but with a broad range of reading capabilities, you are physically able to access graphic novels more than you would traditional prose, right? But
Mhm.
also by nature of just having prose, uh, I wouldn't even say supplemented because in graphic novels they're more like partners. Uh, Text partnered with art, you're able to approach more complex, difficult subjects. You know, macro subjects such as race and um, uh, conflict and resource wars and all kinds of things that go into these big topics in graphic novels, uh, and make them more approachable for a wider audience. So, Charity, as an educator, I have my suspicions on why you chose to make Mr. Smarty Pants a graphic novel, but walk us through some of your thinking and why you chose this format and not a traditional children's storybook or some other format.
So this is gonna be a funny story because no one ever they're like, wait, what? So I was in I was part of Storyteller Academy because I'm always one for harnessing your craft and learning how to write and all the things. Right, I've been immersed myself in the industry for the past few years, and we were up for the session, the workshop that I was in. We were up for critiques, and you could like submit stories to be critiqued by a traditionally published author, and they would give you feedback in the class, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So he picked mine and read it, and they were like, this is great and everything, but maybe you want to, there was a lot of feedback and critiques, and so many comments were like, have you considered making it longer? Because I thought it was too long, the original manuscript I had. I'm like, I gotta cut it down. If it's a picture book, it needs less words. How do I make this work? And they were like, have you considered making it a graphic novel? And I'm like, you know what? And there's so many comments. Yeah, oh man, this should be a graphic novel. We could totally see this being a graphic novel. And I thought, wait a minute, okay, well, let me just sit down and see. Because again, as an educator, I was familiar with graphic novels, especially with your readers that are more reluctant,
Mm-hmm.
or readers that are behind. It's a great way to help boost their confidence where they're not quite at chapter book yet, but they don't want to be viewed as just in the picture book area because, I'm 9, I'm 8. I don't want to just read a picture book. It's a nice bridge, as you mentioned earlier, that transition. So I said, you know what, that would actually be great because it ties into the STEM and the content and everything like that. And so there was another course in that academy that I was, excuse me, that I was in. I think his name is Ken Lang. He is has several graphic novels out, and he did a course and taught about formatting. And I'm a big theater geek, so I used to love like writing scripts and plays and all that stuff. And I thought, wow, they marry so well together because one of the nuances with a picture book, again, because if you're trying to be traditionally published, your illustrator is assigned, and some people in the industry frown upon like art notes. They're like, don't put all that, just put your words and let them handle the creative side. Well, with a graphic novel, it lends itself to more detail. So you can be like, oh, I want this here and that there. And I'm like, oh, this is a script and story all in one. I'm loving this. And so I meshed it all together and it came out even better than what the original had been, and we went from there. So kind of by mistake, it happened.
It was
So
a great
I definitely
mistake.
wouldn't say it was a mistake. I think everything turned out exactly the way it was supposed to be because honestly, Astro, with your artwork and the story that's being told here, um, I could see this becoming some sort of series on television, PBS Kids, something of that nature. The visual here just really makes everything jump off the page as if the characters are moving around, and they're not. They're static, but I think, Astro, that's just an ode to your art and your skill and your color work, right? That you really make things pop and seem like they're moving and dynamic with your choice of color. I also wanted to ask you, Charity. I can see this as a series, of different, the legacy and heritage of folks, um, not just in STEM, but in Black history in general. What are your plans for Mr. Smarty Pants or your next work? And what do you want the impact of something like Mr. Smarty Pants to be?
Yes, series is definitely in the works. A sequel is already being worked on.
What's
It
that,
has
Nat?
been much requested. Got to give the people what they want. Like, where's the sequel? And I'm like, it's coming. So, no pressure. I'm like, oh man, because that first one you're like, oh, I hope people are receptive and like it. Then they're like, great, where's the next one? You're like, oh shoot, okay, let's keep going. So, definitely having the sequel. Uh, is the first thing, and then long term, like you said, animated would be great. I was talking to our publisher, and they have different rights that they negotiate, and they send things out, and I'm like, this would be great if it were in audio, like audiobook. I want to hear the cast of characters like saying all the things, and so haven't gotten an offer yet for that, but I'm still hoping for that part because I think it would be really cool to listen to. My son enjoys listening to stories, and so I could totally see it going that direction before getting even bigger. So the goal is definitely to intertwine more nuances of STEM or STEAM. Definitely want some art in there. Gemma is one of the characters. She's a little more art focused, so we'll learn more about her. And then further down the line, introducing other inventors via other characters. So we'll see. It's got a whole load of possibilities. So right now, just focusing in on what's the next move.
And I
And
and
if I can just comment, let me just say, part of the reason why things were so easy for me is because Charity writes the best characters. When I tell you, like, I don't have a favorite because they are all of my favorites. I'm lying. I do have a favorite. It's Pickle Boy, but
Pickle Boy.
He's my
Well,
favorite too.
so for the viewers
but
out there, there's a character here. What's his name again? Oh goodness.
PB and J, Pete.
PB&J is the crew,
Yeah.
and then who is the P for the pickles? That's Pete.
Yep,
Pete.
Pete. That's
Yes,
my.
so Pete. And he has a fascination with pickles, and they show up everywhere, and sometimes in the most inopportune ways.
Yeah,
Um, but he's so cute, and like I said, Astro, their hair. Like here's the
I
crazy.
know. She nailed it, and the
She
parents
nailed it.
yeah,
Like
nailed it.
look at them.
great writing, great writing. That's all I have to say.
We go together. Look, we're the PB and J. We go together for the.
The vibes.
All right, so ladies, as we wrap up here, I always ask my guests to leave us with recommendations for a bookish thing, person or group, or event that either they have upcoming or they would like our viewers to check out. So if you have any reads or recommendations you would like to leave us with, Charity, I'll have you go first.
Oh man, yeah, I did
And
see
this could be
this, and
you can promote yourself. You
oh,
can talk. talk
I was like, well, like I said, sequel coming. We do still need reviews and everything like that for this current work. I'm trying to think. I know so many people with works. Katie Odie is one of my favorites.
okay.
She's also a fellow author. She has a middle grade series. It's a chapter book. Oh, what is Iggy's Awful Day? I cannot remember, but it's great. And it also features representation. And he just has a terrible day. And so it's the nuances of following a character at a terrible day of middle school, right? And so it's a humorous, great, but I love humor. So it's a great book. for those kiddos who are fifth grade and up, Katie Odie, she is one to watch out for. So I'm excited about her work.
All right, thanks for that recommendation. And Astro, two questions for you. First, what's on next for you? Do you have any upcoming projects or work in progress? And if you have any
Yes.
recommendations you'd like to leave us with.
Yes. First projects coming up. I will be doing an overhaul of Coco's Journal, which is my webtoon. Definitely check that out. It's pretty much my life told in a cosmic comedy. And, I'm headed into a new phase of my life. So I'm thinking that Coco's Journal needs a new facelift and a new energy behind it that kind of feels more like the me of now. So definitely be on the lookout for that, as well as Monster Girl Core. I am a big fan of horror, and I would like to dip my toes into cosmic horror concepts. Um, but it's still going to have that goofy, comedic, colorful charm. So don't worry, that's not going anywhere. So hopefully those are things that'll, tickle your palate. Um, and recommendations, definitely follow me, Astronym, on Instagram. You can find more of my work there, as well as links to other places to find me. What else? Um, Resenter by Gigi Murakami is a manga that you should check out. It is a horror manga done by a Black female artist. And she's amazing. She's amazing at what she does. If you're a fan of Junji Ito and things like that, you would definitely love Resenter.
That I'm writing that down now because I don't know if you knew this, Astro, but I actually love dark fiction, speculative fiction, and horror. And if you want, I'll send you more information after the show. But I'm part of the Black Girls Horror Guide, hosted by follow her out on an Instagram at Eminism. It's EMMANISM. But she alternates a book in a movie, all horror, dark fiction. So I think you should join.
Oh, please, please, please
Yeah,
send me that.
yeah. So
Please.
I'll send you that information. All right. So Resenter. We're gonna write that down. And if you ladies think of anything else, before the night is through, just email me and let me know. I'll be posting along with the highlights your links to your reads and recommendations tonight. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time with Books and Bounty today. Charity, especially thank you for being able and availing yourself at the last minute. I know and expect big things from both of you. Please keep in touch. And thank you. And you guys have a great night.
Absolutely. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
It's a pleasure.
All right.
Feel free
If
to
you
bother
want,
me anytime.
all right. If you
Thank
want,
you.
we'll be live. I'll probably be live for the next hour. If you want to hop on over to Twitch or TikTok, feel free to chat with folks.
For sure. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great night.